my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're going to be taking another look at Kaiju number 8. There will be full spoilers all the way through chapter 78, so you have been warned. So, just before Chapter 78 I put out a video reminding everybody that we don't know where the little guy came from, why he came to Kafka. We've got a bunch of theories out there, but we just don't know. See, that little kaiju flew or crawled into the hospital, which was a feat. Hospitals are designed to keep out vermin like that. Modern hospitals, when was the last time in any modern well-functioning hospital, especially one like the ones they have in Japan, where you saw a rat get in? And this was a rat-sized kaiju. So how did it get into that hospital? Why was it looking for Kafka? Why did it say, "I found you," as it flew over him, looking him in the face? And I've had a bunch of different theories. When we saw the ghost at the shrine, when Kafka and Vice Captain Hoshina were at the shrine, Kafka caught his vision fitzed out. He saw that ghost. Vice Captain Hoshina didn't sense it. And some theories were put forward. Was it his kaiju detecting sense, detecting the corpse or mummified remains of a kaiju slayer like himself from the past that was buried in the shrine? Was it the same thing that allowed him to discover that kaiju that were attacking the little girl when he escaped from the hospital? Or was this a memory of the little guy? Did that little kaiju bring with him a memory of a past host? Now, another theory I had, one that I leaned forward much harder towards than the memory of the little guy theory, was that the little guy was actually an inadvertent creation of Kaiju number 9, produced by the lingering elements of Hikari Shinamiya's will. And kind of the way I saw this going down was that the reason Kaiju number 9 was so hot to specifically absorb the Director General and the number 1 weapon was that Kaiju number 9, during the attack of Kaiju number 6, had successfully absorbed Hikari Shinamiya, but hadn't absorbed her weapon. And that caused him to be unable to fully utilize her power. So he zeroes in on the next best thing, Director General Iso Shinamiya and his weapon. And this time he makes sure that not only is Director General Shinamiya hooked up to his weapon, the weapon is fully powered up before he absorbs him. But anyway, that's how I figured that all went down. And then Hikari Shinamiya's will lingered, just as we saw Director Shinamiya's will linger, and she managed to alter one of Kaiju number 9's creation to become this benevolent kaiju. Now, between these two theories, that little guy has been around a lot longer, and the little guy served with one of the ancient samurai who fought the great fire kaiju of 1576, and the little guy being sort of an extension of Hikari's will that managed to escape Kaiju number 9, I really, really wanted it to be the Hikari Shinamiya thing. But in this chapter, we have some pretty solid evidence to the contrary, which ironically has to do with Hikari Shinamiya. Because in chapter 79, we get the revelation that Kokoru has been seeing the ghost of her mother. And when she during training, she sees the ghost of her mother doing the same moves that she's doing, but always just ahead of her, always just faster than her. When she confesses this to Jin Narumi, instead of laughing at her or mocking her, he just goes, "Oh yeah, you're seeing your mother's ghost." And she's like, "Well, say what?" And he goes, "It's been known to happen before, very rarely, but if you're using a suit that has been worn by a previous user, the suit carries the memory of its previous user. And sometimes the suit, because it's completely integrated into your nervous system, will share those memories with you." Now, these suits aren't that old. They're at best a few decades old, so there aren't that many users. And there certainly aren't, I imagine that a lot of these suits get destroyed when the user dies. So this isn't something that happens a lot, but it is a known phenomenon in this universe. Canonically, When these kaiju muscle fiber suits get passed down, if you get a hand-me-down suit, you will witness the ghost of the person who had the suit previously. And this is a massive bit of evidence that what Kafka saw in that shrine was the memory that little guy has of his previous host. So there was a slayer way back in the times, the 1300s or the 1500s. There was a slayer who hosted the little guy. So and it wasn't kaiju number 8, of course, at the time. It would be a different kaiju. But there was another slayer, just like Kafka, who could transform into a kaiju with the help of little guy. Now, you can imagine that when this big reveal happened in the chapter, I was happy that we're getting more information, but I was a little disappointed because like I said, Hikari Shinomiya has been one of my favorite characters in this series since she was first introduced. I was really hoping that the little guy, and therefore kaiju number 8, were extensions of her will to protect her daughter. Therefore, in Kafka protecting Kikoru as many times as he had, that is him enabling her mother to fulfill her duties to Kikoru. And I was really hoping for that. And you'd think that this really dashed those hopes. And it did. Until chapter 79 flipped over to page 14. And smack dab in the middle of page 14, we get this really awesome picture, a visual representation of kaiju number 4. The kaiju from which her suit was crafted. Kaiju number 4 was bony. He has a big bony face with big sharp orca-like teeth. He has eyes on his head, 3 eyes. He has wings just like the wings that come out of Hikari's number 4 weapon suit. And he has long bony spines. He looks something like a cross between a dragonfly with little bony legs and an eel. So we've got our first real look at kaiju number 4 here. A long bony dragonfly eel with a spine ridge running down his back. Well, his entire body is a spine. And wings perched far forward on his body just behind his head. These 3 little limbs coming out. He also, very interesting, has like axolotl frills, bony axolotl frills coming off of his neck. But anyway, let's look at the presentation of this image. The kaiju is front and center. He's massive, so he's taking up the entire panel. We're looking at this from Kikoru's perspective. She's in the panel, but she's very small, and the kaiju is above her, staring down at her, well, judgmentally. But I've got both of these images up on the screen. They're spinning around, but look at them, compare them. This is the image of kaiju number 4 on page 14 of chapter 78. The other one is the image of little guy from page whatever of chapter 1. The composition of these 2 images is nearly identical, from the position of the wings to the position of the forelimbs to the long tapering body going back behind. It genuinely looks like little guy, the little kaiju that started this entire story, that created kaiju number 8 with Kafka, is the larval form of kaiju number 4. Now, kaiju number 4 has that bone mask, and it's got the bone. Its body is the bony spines, the same bony spines that are running down Kafka's back, and it has these 4 limbs coming forward at the first part of its body, just like little guy. Now, little guy's limbs had hands on the ends, almost human-like, but 4-fingered hands. This guy's limbs just appear to be bony protrusions coming out of its first 2 vertebrae. But you've got the bony spine running down its back, the same long, spindly body and tail as the little guy. You've got the kaiju number 8 teeth in its mouth in the same pattern, with the smaller teeth up front and the larger teeth on the sides and running back. You've got that same bone mask. You've got eyes of a similar type, And again, you've got those wings. Now, Kaiju number 4's wings appear to be made out of energy, but they're in the same pattern and position as little guy. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. As someone who studies the metamorphosis of insects, it really does look like little guy is like the second or third instar of a metamorphosis process that will eventually lead it to become a Kaiju number 4. Which makes this another connection between Hikari Shinomiya and little guy, therefore Kaiju number 8 in Kafka. So what are we looking here? That maybe little guy inherited the memories of an older Kaiju. Maybe little guy, I don't know. So this is just so frustrating, and Matsumoto is such a tease, because this cannot be coincidental on Matsumoto's part. He can't give us two distinctly similar yet opposite clues pointing in different directions in the same chapter and not know exactly what he's doing. So, leave a comment below the video telling me what you think. Do you think that that the little guy, and therefore Kaiju number 8, is a very old Kaiju who has taken hosts and battled Kaiju before in the form of these shifter Kaiju, and is one of the previous hosts of little guy laying there in that shrine? Or is little guy the last fragment of the will of Hikari Shinomiya, using her power and ability as the wielder of the number 4 armor to fulfill her duty to protect her husband and daughter? Or could it possibly be some combination of both of those? Leave your comments below the video. Hit that like and subscribe button. Go get yourself a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird. And peace out, my wonderful viewers.